It's the middle of an ice age. Somewhere in what is now Europe, the temperature has dropped to levels that would kill most mammals in under an hour. And yet smoke is rising from a cave. Inside, a group of humans is alive, awake, functioning, in conditions that should be lethal to a hairless primate with no fur and no natural insulation. How are they still alive? This is a detective story, and the survival tool that saved them left almost no physical evidence behind. No fossils, no remains, nothing you could dig up and hold in your hand. So how do you solve a mystery when the evidence has completely vanished? You ask an insect. Every other primate on Earth is covered in thick fur. Chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, all of them fully insulated by evolution. Humans are the exception, the naked primate, the one species that walked away from millions of years of fur-covered ancestry and ended up nearly bare-skinned. This wasn't a mistake. It was a trade. Around 2 million years ago, early humans were becoming endurance hunters, running prey to exhaustion across the hot plains of Africa for hours at a time. Thick fur traps body heat. It causes overheating. It slows you down. So evolution made a swap. Fur came off. Sweat glands multiplied. Humans have roughly 5 times more sweat glands than chimpanzees. Bare skin let heat radiate out, and sweat evaporating off that skin became one of the most efficient cooling systems in the animal kingdom. Brilliant for Africa, but evolution doesn't think ahead. It solves the problem directly in front of it, and nobody was preparing for what came next. Around 100,000 years ago, groups of Homo sapiens began walking out of Africa, north into the Middle East, further north into Europe and Central Asia. And the climate changed fast. Ice Age winters with temperatures far below zero, sub-zero nights that lasted months, brutal wind that cuts through bare skin in minutes, and drops body temperature fast enough to cause death within hours. A hairless primate, perfectly designed for the African savanna, suddenly found itself in the worst possible environment for its own biology. This should have been the end of the migration. Instead, something allowed them to keep going. And for a long time, we genuinely didn't know what that something was. Here's the core problem: clothing disappears. Fabric rots, hide decomposes. None of it survives tens of thousands of years buried in soil. Stone tools last millions of years. Bones fossilize. Clothing leaves almost nothing behind. Over decades, scientists were stuck guessing. There had to be another way to find a fossil for an object that doesn't fossilize. And the answer came from the strangest place imaginable. A parasite. Head lice have lived on humans for millions of years, adapted to gripping human hair and surviving on the scalp. But there is a second kind of louse. Body lice. Body lice cannot live on bare skin. They lay their eggs in the seams of clothing. Take away clothing and body lice cannot survive. Their entire existence depends on humans wearing something consistently enough for clothing to become a permanent habitat, which means body lice could not have evolved as a separate species until clothing already existed. Somewhere hidden in the DNA of this tiny insect was a fossil record, not of clothing itself, but of the exact moment clothing became common enough for an entirely new species to evolve inside it. Scientists sequenced the DNA of both lice types and calculated when the two populations split apart. The answer, around 170,000 years ago. That is our best estimate for when humans started wearing clothing regularly. Not guessed from cave art, reverse engineered from a parasite that needed clothing to exist. The earliest clothing was simple. Animal hides draped over the body, tied with cord or sinew. It blocked wind. It trapped some warmth, but loose draped hide has one unavoidable flaw: gaps. In serious cold, gaps are exactly where heat escapes fastest. Then, around 40,000 years ago, the record gives us something new and very specific. Bone needles, small, carefully shaped tools with a tiny hole at one end, found at sites across Ice Age Europe and Asia. A needle means sewing. Sewing means fitted clothing, garments cut and stitched to match the shape of a human body. Fitted clothing traps heat dramatically more effectively than a loose hide. In an Ice Age winter, that difference is not about comfort. It is the difference between surviving the season and freezing to death before spring. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Homo sapiens were not the only humans living through these winters. Neanderthals were there too, across the same cold landscapes for tens of thousands of years. They were not primitive. They made tools. They buried their dead. They had survived multiple ice ages, and yet the evidence shows a clear divide. Neanderthal sites show simple draped hides. Homo sapiens sites show sewn, fitted garments. In pure survival terms, a tightly fitted sewn garment in extreme cold performs enormously better than a draped hide. Neanderthals had survived for hundreds of thousands of years before Homo sapiens arrived, and went extinct not long after. The timing fits in a way that is genuinely hard to ignore. Once fitted clothing existed, it didn't just help humans survive in Europe. It unlocked the rest of the planet. Without effective clothing, there is no way humans push into Siberia. No way they survived near the Bering Land Bridge. No way the first humans ever walk into North America, a continent no human had ever set foot on before. Every step further from the equator was a step further from the climate human bodies were built for. Clothing made every one of those steps survivable. It is the technology that turned humans from a regional African species into a species that now lives on every continent on Earth. But clothing didn't stop at survival. Archaeologists have found ancient beads, dyed fibers, and decorative elements sewn into clothing tens of thousands of years ago, long before written language, long before civilization. Almost as soon as clothing existed, humans used it to say something, to show status, to show identity, to mark who belonged and who didn't. Clothing did for human identity what cooking did for human community. It became a shared technology that carried meaning far beyond its original purpose. So here is the full picture. 2 million years ago, early humans traded fur for sweat glands to survive the African heat that left them dangerously vulnerable to cold. Around 170,000 years ago, clothing solved that problem. An invention so regularly used that an entirely new species of insect evolved to live inside it. Tens of thousands of years later, that invention became sewn and fitted, possibly giving one human species a critical survival edge over another during the harshest ice age winters the planet had seen. And once that technology existed, it let humans walk into Siberia, cross a frozen land bridge, and become the first people to ever set foot on an entirely new continent. So the next time you pull on a jacket without thinking twice, remember what you are actually holding. It is not just fabric. It is not just warmth. It is at least 170,000 years of human survival, written into every single seam.